You can drink all the detox green fat burner teas that you want and buy all the cold pressed celery juice and like all natural grass fed non GMO, non dairy freaking spinach water all you want, and it's not gonna do a thing if you're not in a calorie deficit. What is up guys, Austin here and welcome to another video, and today I'm going to be going over how to lose fat on a budget. And so there's a huge misconception in the industry and just among a lot of people that losing fat, being healthy has to be expensive just because you see all over the internet, all over Instagram and everything, your favorite influencers, your favorite fitness gurus. They'll make it seem like it's a lavish lifestyle to be healthy, to lose fat, to be lean, to be fit. Meanwhile, they are buying these like $10 pressed juices and like just these super expensive organic all natural grass fed zucchini water or whatever kind of BS they're trying to sell you, some like green like detox fat burner tea that costs like $50 per like scoop. But the truth is, you actually don't need all of that expensive BS. In fact, losing fat, it can be very cheap, and at the end of the day, it's all about calories in, calories out, creating that calorie deficit, and it doesn't matter where these calories come from. And the truth is, as I've said time and time again, it's all about calories in versus calories out. To lose fat, you need to create a calorie deficit. This is non-negotiable, and there is no way around this. If you're eating more calories than you are burning on a daily basis, you will not lose fat. You can drink all the detox green fat burner teas that you want and buy all the cold pressed celery juice and like all natural grass fed non GMO, non dairy freaking spinach water all you want, and it's not gonna do a thing if you're not in a calorie deficit. And without further ado, here are 6 tips on how to lose fat on a budget or just keep costs down, because you don't have to be spending a lot of money to lose fat. In fact, you can save money, you can keep it on the low spending side of things. You just have to be smart about it, shop a certain way, and keep certain staples in your diet. And mainly, prepare most of the food yourself. That way, you can cut down on costs. You don't have to go out and buy anything. You don't have to go out and pay all these expensive companies your hard earned money and buy BS stuff that doesn't really work or it's just not necessary at all. And so the first thing is to shop at low cost option stores. And what I mean by this, it's going to grocery stores in your area that you know are reliable and cheap sources of food. And so for me here in the Pacific Northwest, we have a place called Winco Foods. I'm not sure, depends on where you are tuning in from here, but some places have Winco, some places don't. I am aware of that. And so looking for your local grocery store, I know Aldi's is a good one. Walmart is definitely very popular, and it's also very spread out throughout the entire US itself. Very good for low cost options. Winco has a lot of like bulk foods that you can buy, and that way you can keep costs down. Always shop generic. You can save some bonus money there if you don't really care about brand all that too much. I usually find that either the Winco generic brand itself or Walmart's Great Value brand, like the taste and quality of the food itself, it's pretty close to all the name brand stuff, and the costs are usually like much cheaper. And so in the long run, you do save a good amount of money just shopping generic and shopping cheap. And at the end of the day, as long as you are hitting a calorie deficit, it doesn't matter which sources your foods are from. As long as you are eating very healthy, low calorie dense foods, a lot of veggies, a lot of fruits, a lot of lean proteins, and very starchy and filling carb sources. On to tip number 2, which is going to be buying in bulk. And I know that I said that at Winco you can buy bulk, but certain places don't have Winco. And a good alternative for this is shopping at wholesale stores like Costco and Sam's Club. I know compared to Winco, some of the products you'll have to shop around and do some of the research, do some of the legwork yourself just to kind of compare prices. I know that I've found differences in prices, like some things at Walmart are cheaper, like per ounce or per whatever unit. If you do the math, usually works out, and you can find whether one is cheaper or the other. But for wholesale, going to Costco, going to Sam's Club, sometimes you can save a ton of money just because you're buying like whatever you're buying in such huge amounts that you can actually get like pretty deep discounts on it. And so for these wholesale stores, I do recommend buying more of your staples. And so usually if you're a person who doesn't really have much of a big appetite, I know I do, I personally do, if you do have a big appetite, then buying bulk is perfect because you have a lot of it and you also get to save money, so you'll go through it relatively fast. But if you don't have such a big appetite, I do recommend sticking on more of the conservative side, buying more staple, non-perishable foods like rice, oats, potatoes, stuff that lasts pretty long, but also stuff that you know you will go through and not like waste and throw away at the end of the month because you can't finish it. For example, if it's like fresh produce and you know you can't finish it by the time it like goes bad, then don't stock up on those there. Stock up on other things that you know are non-perishables, stuff that you know won't go bad before you finish it. And now tip number 3 for losing fat on a budget, it's going to be buying frozen fruits and veggies. So I know that per unit, usually frozen fruits and veggies are a little bit cheaper than the fresh options. And of course, for certain foods, if you really like the fresh option, then by all means, if you're willing to spend a little bit more, then by all means go for it. But if you shop for the frozen versions and they don't taste all that different, then I guarantee that you should buy the frozen option. Stuff like frozen fruits, you can put into smoothies. You can eat it just like little like ice fruit popsicle snacks. I'm not sure what really to call it, but I know frozen grapes. I love frozen grapes. They're just like little like popsicles that you can just pop into my mouth, like little gumdrops. That's what I was looking for, not popsicles, but little like fruity gumdrops you can just pop in your mouth, let it like slowly melt, and then yeah, they are perfect for a good, healthy, low-calorie then snack. Frozen veggies, on the other hand, I'd say you can't use it for salads. Don't even try to do that. You will break your teeth, and I don't think it tastes all that good, frozen veggies, but they're very good for sauteing and just doing stir fry. And just if you're gonna cook the veggies anyway, then using the frozen options are a very good alternative. I know sometimes in stores they just sell like a pre-mixed like bag of veggies, like mixed vegetables, like with like 4 different types of veggies in there, and that's very good if you just like sauteed vegetables. Personally, yeah, I do that. But also I shop at Winco, so their prices are really low on like fresh veggies. I do prefer using fresh veggies to cook. This also, I guess, varies from place to place. If you do find that frozen fruits and veggies are a little bit cheaper, then you can by all means go for that. I know for me here, some versions are cheaper than the others. Some versions of fresh are cheaper, so I shop fresh. But yeah, and also frozen fruits and veggies last longer, so the longer you can keep them, the more that you'll have on hand, and the longer you can stretch it out and spend less money on food overall. And for the quality, it's still the same. If anything, I think frozen fruits and veggies have a higher quality of nutrition, just because that there's the whole thing behind how frozen fruits and veggies, they are harvested right when they are ripe, because they harvest it and then when it goes into processing they quickly like flash frozen it and is able to preserve the quality right then and there. Whereas if it's fresh, it has to be picked before it gets like ripe. So then it gets picked, and then by the time it gets shipped to the grocery store, it should be like around like ripe quality. And so that's why frozen fruits and veggies, usually you'll find that it has better taste, better ripeness, better like quality of nutrition, just because of how like processing and handling is done. So just a quick fun fact for you if you want to know that. Alright, next tip for losing fat on a budget. It's going to be using eggs. I know eggs are definitely throughout the United States a very reliable and cheap source of protein. I believe one egg, it's like usually 70 to 90 calories depending on the size of the egg that you get. It usually has around like 8 grams of protein per egg. So that's very good. You use like a few eggs, you get a few hundred calories, as well as like 20 to 30 grams of protein there. So very affordable and good source of protein. And I believe usually a dozen costs around like $1 here. So it's very cheap, lasts you for quite a bit, and it's a good protein source. I know usually protein is the most expensive macronutrient. Like if you go out and buy meat and all that, it usually costs quite a bit. And so eggs can help you keep like the cost down on protein and just throw a little bit of variety in there. And honestly, who doesn't like eggs? I've met a few people in my life that don't like eggs, and I don't really like them as a person. So there's that. I'm just kidding, but eggs are very good. I personally, I love eggs themselves. And also, if you just buy eggs and you don't want the egg yolk, you can always just use the egg whites for like pure protein. And even then, I think it comes out to like cheaper, like than buying like the cartons of egg whites, because they do charge a little bit extra since they have to go through all that pasteurizing and processing. But the eggs itself, very cheap, good protein source. Next up on losing fat on a budget. And so next on the list for losing fat on a budget, I have these three carb sources in particular, just because they are very widely found and also they are cheap and filling. And so we have oats, potatoes, and rice. And so these three, you can usually buy them in bulk and they are very cheap, like per unit of whatever it is. And it's a very reliable source of getting in your carbs. They're very relatively filling and they're just really cheap as well. Like you can go to any grocery store and they'll be relatively cheap for like the amount of like of that food that you get. Except rice. I know personally for me, like growing up, I ate a lot of rice and I can just down like 2 cups of rice like nothing. So rice, you might want to stick to the more conservative side if you do have a bigger appetite. But potatoes and oats, those are both very filling carb sources in general. So those are very good for diet staples. And they last pretty long too. Like oats and rice are dry storage type of foods, so they'll last you forever. Potatoes, they last pretty long too. Not as long as rice and oats obviously, but they last pretty long too, as long as you keep them like in a dark and like dry area. And then lastly, losing fat on a budget, of course, you need some type of greens if you're not getting it from your frozen fruits and veggies, of course. I know that spinach is a very low cost and good like green source. Like spinach has so many micronutrients and it's so healthy for you. Contains a lot of protein as well. One of the highest like amounts of protein like per serving of for vegetables. Like for vegetables, it has very like high amounts of protein, and so spinach is very good. And also you can mix it into your smoothies, you can mix it into a lot of stuff and you can't really taste it. And also you can either eat it raw or you can cook it. I know like you can eat spinach salads raw, you can like have sauteed spinach, throw a little bit of like garlic in there, and then throw some like palm spray for a little bit of oil, and oh my gosh, it is perfect. Like you don't need all of that much to make spinach taste pretty good. And honestly, it has a pretty neutral taste. Like I don't know many people that don't like spinach. In fact, it's just like a simple, like reliable vegetable. And so that about wraps it up for the 6 ways to lose fat on a budget. I know that some of these may not be accessible to use, like different areas have different chain stores, but of course do the best you can to save the most amount of money you can. If you don't mind spending more money on certain things, then by all means spend more money on certain things. It's totally up to you, it's totally your choice. But these are my 6 recommendations on losing fat on a budget. This proves that losing fat doesn't have to be super expensive. You don't have to buy these green, expensive detox fat burning teas, and you also don't have to buy stupid waist wraps or like any cold pressed celery juice, or it's just some like fancy marketing gimmick that some fitness guru or influencer is trying to sell you. You can stick to staples. You can find everything you need at a local grocery store, and that's basically all you need. You just need a reliable and cheap source to buy your food, maintain a calorie deficit, and you will reach your goals. And remember, losing fat is simple. It's not easy, but it's very simple. You can get it done with all the resources that you have on hand. Just be smart about it. And again, to wrap up, the 6 ways are to shop low-cost options such as Walmart, Winco, Aldi, or any other low-cost grocery store around your area. Second is buy in bulk. Shop at Costco or Sam's Club or other wholesale stores where you can buy things in big amounts in bulk. Thirdly, Buy frozen fruits and veggies. These are less expensive, they last longer, and they are still very healthy sources of food and very nutritious. Fourth is eggs, very reliable and cheap source of protein. Fifth, your carb sources. These are the most affordable and filling at the same time, in my opinion. So potatoes, oats, and rice. And sixth, and finally, spinach. One of the healthiest vegetables on the planet, contain a lot of protein and very flexible in terms of how you can eat it, cook it, and prepare it. And so anyways, hope that helps you guys. Hope you guys learn something to apply to your everyday life. Subscribe for more, and I will see you guys in the next one.